Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and for today's video, we're kind of recapping what happened over Wildcard weekend and the game moving forward, along with some coaching changes that might be happening. So that's going to be all encapsulated, big vocab word there, right there, academic weapon. That's all going to be happening in this video. If you're new here and you do enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe and make sure to drop a thumbs up if you do enjoy the content. Now, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now, I have no script for this video. For a lot of my videos, I normally have a script. Put this a little bit higher. A script that I normally go off of, but this time I don't. I'm just gonna be freeballing it, kind of just talking about the games one by one, not getting too deep into it. But yeah, first game we're gonna start off with here is the Browns and the Texans game. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I thought the Browns were going to win this game. That's who I had winning this game. Yeah, it was definitely shocking for me. I did not think the Browns' defense was going to collapse the way that it did, a top 5 defense, and CJ Stroud just kind of tore it apart. Now, Joe Flacco throwing a pick six and another interception did play into the Texans getting such a big lead in that game. So, yeah, but Joe Flacco, the story was nice, you know. The story was nice while it lasted, but there's a reason he wasn't on an NFL roster up until when he got signed to the Browns, because he's just not good. You know, he was okay for the Browns. He was good for them, but there's a reason he wasn't on that roster previously. In terms of QBR, he ranked 44th in the NFL in the games that he played, so not the greatest, and not even top 32 in the NFL. So yeah, but yeah. The Browns, nonetheless, had a great season, went through 4 quarterbacks: Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie, PJ Walker, and now Joe Flacco. So kudos to them. Defense is looking great. They just got to stay healthy. Now the Texans, wow, hosted a playoff game after going 3-13-1 the previous year, getting CJ Stroud, drafting Nico Collins, also drafting that other kid, Tank Dell. I don't know if they drafted Nico Collins. No, they drafted Tank Dell. Nico Collins was already there. They also acquired Robert Woods, who's been a pretty good acclamation for them. They have Devin Singletary, who's leading that backfield. So this team is playing great. CJ Stroud went off 3 touchdowns, 257 yards, 274 yards. So he played great, and now they have to go play Baltimore in Baltimore. Now, I think that's going to be a good game. I'm going to cover that at the end. But now we're just covering the games that happened. CJ Stroud looked great. So that's all I'm going to dive into. And for that one, the next one I'm going to talk about is the Dolphins and the Chiefs game. If you don't know already, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. But to be completely honest with you guys, my honest opinion, I'm the most unbiased fan. Wow, excuse me, that you will ever come across. Wow. I honestly thought the Dolphins were going to win this game. I didn't think it was going to be an easy game, but I thought the Dolphins were going to win. Tua, man, the defense did give up 26 points, but they forced 4 field goals out of the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they're still not the same Chiefs. Their offense hasn't been the greatest, but they still forced them for 4 field goals. And the Dolphins offense just could not get it going all game at all. Tua was pretty inconsistent. He was dropping back, first read, if it's not there, check down. He just kept checking it down. Dolphins couldn't get the run game going. Mostert was averaging 4.1 yards per carry, but they just kind of went away from the run game. And just Tua wasn't throwing the ball down the field, but it probably had to do with the cold. But in my opinion, the Dolphins should not extend Tua. I'm a firm believer that as long as Tua is a quarterback, we will not be winning a Super Bowl, and I stand by that. Yeah, now the Chiefs, honestly, they looked good. They really did. They were moving the ball the entire game. They were running the ball. Mahomes was able to scramble as well. He did get pressured, and the Chiefs don't have a lot of points to show for it. They only scored 26 points, but they were able to move the ball on a really good Dolphins defense. So now they go to Buffalo, and they play Buffalo, and that's going to be a great game. I had the Bills winning the Super Bowl, but honestly, they could win that game. But talk about that at the end. Chiefs looked really well. Defense looked great. They were able to apply pressure on Tua. They were able to get their run game going with Isaiah Pacheco. He had 89 yards rushing on 24 carries. And Mahomes looked like Mahomes. He had a lot of incomplete passes, but he also had 5 or 6 dropped passes. I think he had 3 right off the bat in the first drive. So, yeah, that's that game. The next one, oh my God, the shocker of the weekend. The Green Bay Packers, 7 seed at the Dallas Cowboys. What a game. What a freaking game, man. The Green Bay Packers are now the first 7 seed to win a playoff game. And man, a just total collapse from the Dallas Cowboys. But Jordan Love and that Green Bay Packers offense looked great. I mean, they virtually looked unstoppable. And I mean that. Jordan Love threw for 272 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, almost 100 QBR. Aaron Jones rushed for 118 yards, which is 5.6 yards per carry. No A.J. Dillon, but this team looked perfect. I mean, yes, they gave up points in the second half, but they were still executing at all levels, and they were able to put up 41 points, picking off Dak Prescott twice, getting a pick 6. Defense looked great, and they were a little shorthanded. They've been injured all season, but they looked great. Now, the Cowboys, honestly, Dak Prescott was not the reason they lost this game. It was their defense. Their defense gave up not 48 points. It was 40 points, 41 points their defense gave up. So, that's the reason why they lost this game. They got down early. They couldn't stop a soul. A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones averaging 5.6 yards per carry, which is crazy. They just couldn't stop a soul. This team absolutely collapsed in the postseason. If I'm being honest, I had this team in that NFC Championship game. I mean, I did not see this happening. So, yeah, it looked like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott in the first half just couldn't get it going. I don't know, but just a shocker of a game. Now, Jordan Love and this Packers team have a chance to go upset San Fran. We'll talk about that later, but this was honestly, I was at Texas Roadhouse watching this game, and it was just a shocker of a game. It was a shocker. Dallas, their first 3-4 drives is what cost them the game because they got enough points. They went punt, punt, punt. And then Dak threw interception and then a pick 6 and whatnot. So they started the game so slow, got off to a horrible start, didn't score to the end of the first half. And by that time, it was just over. So it's always next year, though, Dallas fans. So, but now moving on to the next game. The Lions and Rams game. Don't really want to touch on this too much. Rams, though, I called it at the beginning of the season, September 19th, 2023. I said this team is going to be a playoff team. They're going to go 10-7, and they're going to be a wild card team. And the Rams were exactly that. Puka Nacua having probably the best wide receiver rookie performance of all time. And now, what's the future hold for Matthew Stafford? Getting older, dealing with a lot of injuries. But they do have a young team. They do have a young defense. Aaron Donald's probably going to come back for another year or two. Don't know how much longer is left on his contract. But Detroit get a really good win. I will say, though, there were a couple of penalties that went Detroit's way that could have ended the game for them. So we'll see how they play against Tampa. Again, that's for another video, or for the end of the video. But that's all I want to touch on there. The Bills and Steelers. The Bills and Josh Allen, I have winning the Super Bowl. This team looked great. I think this is the best team out of all the teams in the wildcard round. I think this was the best performance. Josh Allen, 203 passing yards, but he also had 74 rushing yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So he had 270, 7 yards of offense. All on him. I mean, this team just looked great. The defense played phenomenal. It was against the Steelers. They had a couple chunk plays here and there, but weren't able to kind of get it going. Now, the Steelers, they have a couple situations going into the offseason. Do they sign Mason Rudolph, or do they make him the starter? What are they going to do with Kenny Pickett? Is Mike Tomlin coming back? I think, you don't want to... The grass is definitely not green on the other side unless you're going to go with Bill Belichick. But it's going to be hard trying to find another head coach to replace Mike Tomlin as long as he's been there and had so much success. I would not move on from him because I don't think the grass is greener on the other side. But Now the game that, man, I was just so happy to see the Eagles lose. But the Bucs and the Eagles, Baker Mayfield having a career year, silencing all the doubters. He made a franchise record, the first quarterback in Bucs history in the postseason to throw for 300 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Looked great. He also had 16 rushing yards, so he had 350 total yards of offense himself. And that Bucs defense just shut down the Eagles offense, constantly pressuring Jalen Hurts to force him to make those throws or scramble, and he didn't make them pay. In my opinion, I've always said Jalen Hurts is an average quarterback. I've always said that. I don't understand why people rank him in the top 3, top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, because he's not. He is not. And you guys are seeing it. He's starting to crumble. So that's not to say he's trash. I just don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. He's not. But the Eagles, now what are they going to do? Jason Kelce retired. Nick Sirianni, is he coming back? Or is there going to be a little sneaky link? Are they going to go out and get Bill Belichick? I think that's who they should go out and get. But we'll see. But the Bucs now go play Detroit. Very manageable game to win. Again, we'll get into that in just a minute. But what a game. Tampa Bay, they couldn't really get their run game going. Yeah, Rachaad White, he had, 18 carries for 72 yards and averaged 4 yards a carry. But it seemed like every other time they tried to run the ball, they just constantly kept getting stopped. If you watch the game, now I do know what I just said, that he averaged 4 yards a carry. But if you watch the game, it seemed like he would either get chunk yards, kind of like 6-7 yards, and then would just get 1, and then 6-7 yards and then 1, or like no gain or loss of 1. Like that's kind of what it seemed like. So it seemed like the 6-7 yard carries made up for the shorter losses. But Baker Mayfield played a great game. He had 5 or 6 dropped passes from some of these receivers, so his completion percentage could have been a lot higher. But yeah. So now let me go and look at the playoff games here, the ones that we got going moving forward. So now the divisional round, Houston at Baltimore. I think Baltimore's going to win the game. I think I'm being honest here. But if CJ Stroud in that offense gets into a rhythm early and sets the tone, they could win this game. I'm not sure how effective they're going to be able to run the ball, because Baltimore has a really good pass rush and a run stop defense. But where they're weak at is their secondary. The corners aren't the best corners in the game. They've been stretched thin a little bit towards the back end of the season, faced with injuries. So I think CJ Stroud can tear them apart that way, passing the ball downfield, pushing the ball like that. But I think it's going to be all Baltimore. I think it'll be a 10-point game. I could see it being a 10-point game if it's not a blowout. I think Lamar is going to torch his team. If they sit back and let Lamar throw the ball, it's game over. They're going to win by 21 points. But if they put pressure on him, it could be a closer game, but you got to keep a spy on him at all times, because he's probably the greatest quarterback runner in NFL history, next to Michael Vick. So we'll see how that one goes. Green Bay and San Francisco. This is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most. Green Bay, 7 seed, just torched the Cowboys. Now they have a chance to go play San Francisco. And as much as I want to say I don't think Green Bay has a chance, I think they have the best chance out of any team left in the playoffs to win this game. Coming off a huge win. They have all that momentum. Wow, I'm not bleeping that out. I'm going to keep going. Jordan Love was just making great throws, throwing off his back foot, scrambling, throwing on the run, running the ball. I mean, he looked great. San Fran, they do have a fantastic defense. Great pass rush. Nick Bosa, Chase Young. They have a couple other guys up front. I just do not know their names. I'm not a diehard San Fran fan. And then they do have Fred Warner and a couple other guys at the second level, and their secondary is pretty deep. But if they can get A.J. Dillon back and really run a two-back personnel, and just rotate those guys in, keep them fresh. They do have a really young team, and they do have 2 young tight ends. Green Bay is. I don't know who their names are, but they also have Christian Watson. So we'll see how they match up. But I would love to see Green Bay win this game. That being said, San Fran is just loaded. I mean, they are loaded. Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey is healthy. There was a report coming out saying that he is healthy, and the bye week definitely helped him to heal that calf strain. So yeah, I'll take San Fran honestly by 9 points. I think it's going to be a really close game. Now Tampa and Detroit, man, oh man. We've got some good games this weekend. Man, I think the one I'm least interested in is Houston and Baltimore. And the one I'm most interested in is Green Bay, San Fran, then Kansas City and Buffalo, and then Tampa and Detroit in that order. But now Tampa Bay and Detroit, Tampa Bay can win this game. They really can, but they have to establish the run. And they can't get behind early. They just cannot. Detroit has a really good front, and they have a good secondary as well. But we will see if Baker can deal and beat this team. This team played earlier in the season, week 6 or something like that. They played, and Tampa Bay, I don't want to say got destroyed, but it wasn't. I think Detroit won by like 20 points. Let me check right now. Actually, Baker didn't have the greatest game. Yeah, they won 20-6, so they won by 14 points, 2 touchdowns. But yeah, Tampa Bay didn't score in the second half. So yeah, but we'll see, man. Detroit had a really good game against the Rams. They won. They got that first playoff win under their belt. But this Detroit team is not that good to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. And neither is this Tampa Bay team. So that's why I think this is going to be a great game. These teams are perfectly matched. Both teams, well, not both teams, but Detroit definitely has a better run game. And I do think Tampa Bay has the better pass game. They have better weapons outside with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. But they do also have Rachaad White that likes to be a really good pass catcher. So we'll see how that matches up. Tampa Bay has the better defense. Detroit has a good defense, not the greatest. But we will see how this game matches up. Honestly, my instinct is telling me to take Tampa Bay, but I think Detroit is going to win. So we'll see how that plays out. Kansas City at Buffalo. This is Josh Allen's chance to finally dethrone Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs when it matters most. To get back from that crazy AFC divisional game 2 years ago that went into overtime, and just Josh Allen never got the ball back. He was having the greatest postseason run of any quarterback in NFL history, and he lost in overtime because he never got the ball. This is going to be a great game as well. It's going to be at Orchard Park in Buffalo, so it's going to be a good one. We'll see if Patrick Mahomes. I'll say something right now. If Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs can go into Buffalo and beat them and win this game to go to the AFC Championship game for 6 straight years, I think Patrick Mahomes is already in my top 3 of all time. I think a lot of people will really see, wow, Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. This season, everyone, including myself, has been saying the Chiefs have not been looking like they normally do. And that is true. That is a fact if you watch the Kansas City Chiefs. But when the playoffs comes, it's just like Tom Brady. When the playoff comes, kicks it into another notch. Like Joe Montana in the Super Bowl. The greatest quarterback of all time in the Super Bowl, Joe Montana. Never lost a game. Anyways, beside the point. If Patrick Mahomes can win this game with all the struggles they've been facing with drop passes, with the MVS not playing good, with Kadarius Toney not playing good, with Travis Kelce losing a step, going through injuries, losing Jared McKinnon, putting him on IR, their defense, Chris Jones holding out. With all those things, if they can go into Buffalo and win this game with as hot as Buffalo has been, winning 6 straight games, then I think Kansas City will win the Super Bowl. So we'll see how it plans out. But that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what game you're most looking forward to watching. And as always, I will see you all next video. Peace.